We're going to be discussing now solving quadratic equations by factoring. Solve quadratic equations using factoring. Notice that the sign I use for equations, well, first of all, I don't use an equation with the E. We don't do those kind of signs. I don't. I use the signs equal sentence because that's what an equation is. An equation is an equal mathematical sentence. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. That equation, no, now what does an equal sign mean? It means the left side, ax squared plus bx plus c, is the same thing or is equal to 0, meaning this side is equal to that side. They have the same value. It's a true statement. Now, we'll use our equation skills and factoring skills to solve this equation. First, we must do something before we start working on this. We must have our quadratic in standard form. Okay, that's standard form. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Now we can factor it. In previous vlogs, we've talked about factoring GCFs out of polynomials, factoring trinomials, working out with perfect squares, the difference of two squares. All of those skills, as well as factoring by the grouping method, all those skills I assume you all have. If you don't have those skills, I suggest you go back and work on your factoring skills because all those skills come to bear here in this vlog. These three examples qualify or meet the requirements of being called a quadratic equation. The first example, x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0. That's in standard form. That's ready to factor. The second and third examples are not in standard form. They're not ready yet. We have to set them equal to 0. So what do? We'll work on the second one first. I want this to equal 0, not to equal 3. 2x squared minus 5x equals 3. Now this 3 is in my way. I got to move it over. I got to subtract 3 from both sides. Now watch this. Now you can see here this is in standard form. Now our third example, we have x squared equals 4. It's a similar process. We'll subtract 4 from both sides, and we'll have x squared minus 4 equals 0. And then we'll be ready to factor it. Now, this is in standard form. As we see, we have x squared minus 4 equals 0. Now, is it really standard form or not? Well, let's look at it. Some students complain there's no middle term. There's no bx term. Where is it? It's okay. You don't have to have a middle term. X squared you need to qualify as a quadratic. The other terms are not required. But if you wanted to write the bx term, you could write x squared plus 0x minus 4 equals 0. You could do that, but it's already in standard form. You don't need to do that. We're going to talk about a property called the zero factor property. It really helps us solve our quadratic equations. You'll see why in a minute. But what does it even mean? Zero factor property. It means no property? No. It's the name of a property. Zero factor. Meaning if you have 0, if two things multiplied equals 0, one of the two things must be 0. So if we have 8 times something equals 0, 8 times what? Could it be 1? No, that's 8. Not times 8. Not times 1 8. That is 1. So the only way we can get 0 from this is 8 times 0. This is an example. Meaning, okay? So now we use this property to help us solve the quadratic equations. Now, first exercise or problem here, we have parentheses x plus 3, parentheses 2x minus 1 equals 0. Yes, this is a quadratic equation. If you were to multiply it, you would see 2x squared, which qualifies it. But I decided to factor the first problem for you, and then we'll work on solving it. So, if x plus 3 times quantity 2x minus 1 equals 0, we need to figure out if x plus 3 equals 0, what is x? Now the second part of this is 2x minus 1. If that equals 0, what is x? So we're going to have two solutions for x. Watch what happens. So I set each one equal to 0. And I calculate for x on both equations. Okay, so now we're thinking, I have two answers for x? Wait a minute here. Now remember, a quadratic has two roots. You are going to have two answers for x. So x equals -3. If we were to replace x with -3, we would have 0 equals 0. Or if we replace x with a half, we would have 0 equals 0 in our check. We're going to check both answers. Both answers must work out to be where 0 equals 0 at the end. Now you see, we're going to solve this through and see what happens. The first parentheses is -3 plus 0. And the answer is -3 plus 3. The answer is 0. And multiply that with okay, we have a true statement. Now the first term becomes 0. So when we multiply 0 with anything else, it's going to be 0. Now watch our second part of the check. Okay. Now for those of you who don't like fractions, I'm done with those now. Forget about it. We're still going to use them and use them often. Now, half plus 3, how do I do that? I have to change the fractions, denominators. But if you think about it, 3 and add a half means 3.5. That's the answer. So now, as you can see, our second check, the second term in our product here, 2 times a half minus 1 equals 0. So if I were to replace -3 in our quadratic, it would work out to be 0. If I replace a half in our quadratic, it works out to be 0. Now, we don't have one answer, we have two answers. So we have a solution set now. Okay. This tells you more than one answer. -3 and a half.